I'm Jennifer Gillespie, a member and volunteer for the Society of Actuaries. As president-elect and part of the SOA board, and before that in my other volunteering, I've worked closely with the SOA diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives at the SOA. As part of SOA Thanks Volunteers video series, I'm honored today to speak with Jamala Arland for a conversation about diversity inclusion in the actuarial profession and in society. In addition to being an SOA member, she is also a dedicated volunteer. Currently, Jamala is chairing the SOA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Jamala, can you share with me your experience as an international student coming from Barbados and then studying in Canada?
No problem. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for chatting today. It's really good to talk to you. For me, I really consider myself lucky. The high school that I went to in Barbados, it's called Queen's College. They sponsored and supported math teams that participated in the Descartes math competition that the University of Waterloo hosted. So for me, as a high school student, I had exposure to people who were participating on that math team, and it was something that I aspired to. And when I was selected for that team, I really had the opportunity to kind of focus more and engage with other students at my school who were already on a path and had applications into the University of Waterloo and other universities where they were pursuing careers in actuarial science. Because we had some students from my high school that placed notably in that competition, the University of Waterloo had recruited at my school for actuarial science and other math-related programs. I also had the opportunity growing up in high school. My mother was really good friends with the actuary in Barbados at the time. There was only one, the late Stephen Allen. He was the first Barbadian actuary. And I had the opportunity to meet with him and shadow him for a day and also have feedback conversations with him. One of the things that he told me, because as a high school student, I didn't really understand what it meant to be an actuary. But one of the things that he said to me that always stuck was, if I pursued this actuarial career and it didn't work out, I still had a really good background in business and math related type careers that I could fall back on in the event that I didn't pursue becoming an actuary. So then when I reflect on the opportunities that I had to have this awareness as an international student about the actuarial profession, I really acknowledge that a lot of other international students, and I think even in particular American students, in particular African American students, don't have that opportunity. There's so much that we can still do to build awareness in our profession, and that's why I volunteered with IABA and now with the SOA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee.
Great. So how did you start your career as an actuary?
So again, I always kind of fall back to this concept that I was very lucky in terms of the opportunities that I had, and I managed to secure 3 internships before I graduated and passed 3 actuarial exams. I guess maybe to connect the first part of the story, I did apply to and attend the University of Waterloo, where I had access to, the professors. I had professors who were teaching me courses from the textbooks that they wrote. And that said a lot to me, to have access to those people who were, key and profound members of the actuarial profession teaching me and also encouraging me and building in me kind of, that drive to take and to attempt actuarial exams and that support for taking actuarial exams. So again, I had so much there to help facilitate the level of access into the profession, in which then, again, as I mentioned, helped me secure 3 internships before I graduated. In my first job, I had the opportunity to see several aspects of the work of an actuary, from cash flow testing to product development and a little bit of mergers and acquisition. So starting out in my career, I feel like I had a really good foundation, and that really came to the access that I was granted. And again, like when I think about people in different environments, access is a really important thing. Once you have awareness of the profession, then having those opportunities for access, whether it's to be able to take the exams, to be able to secure internships, all those things really matter when you're starting out in your career.
So you've told us about some wonderful opportunities that you had. Are there any others that you add that you feel like specifically changed your life?
That's that's a tough question. To come up with something that I think about as really pivotal and a life-changing example. I think I've had a lot of experiences, over the last 15 or so years working as an actuary, where I have seen market growth and market declines. I've seen material changes in industries and company strategies based on the product lines that I've worked in, changes in regulatory environments. And I tend to look at those challenges as, potential opportunities. And even when there is uncertainty, how can I turn that into an opportunity for personal and professional growth? So when I think about, you know, some of those pivotal changes. So things that I think about are the market crash in 2008, 2009. I was working variable annuities at the time, so that was a huge hit to that market. That was also kind of the transitioning to the VA carve framework for valuation. I transitioned into life insurance, where a lot of the work that I was doing there in universal life as AG 38 became a new regulation. I was also involved in that. And now for the last 5 years working in long-term care, there's been so much evolution and change and problems that we're working through as an industry, as a profession, in that space. And I think all these opportunities, all these challenges have really been, great opportunities for me to grow, both personally and professionally. And I also think about all the different pivotal points in my career and different product lines and different roles. I've always had really strong advocates and mentors to help me navigate those situations, and thinking about kind of what's the next step in my career and the next opportunity to pursue. And that's another aspect when I think about, for me, again, I consider myself very lucky to have those people, because a lot of people coming up in the profession don't necessarily have those support networks to help them kind of feel retained into the profession and also into the companies that they work for.
That's really good insight. Jamala, you've been an active volunteer leader with the International Association of Black Actuaries, serving as a vice president and other roles for many years. What have you found to be the most challenging and the most rewarding about that experience?
When I first was introduced to the International Association of Black Actuaries, it was through someone who I consider now a mentor and a friend. And it was actually on a job interview after I graduated from university. I was paired with that person on the interview. And when I think back to the experiences that I had up to that point, upon graduating, and the awareness that I had of the profession so early, the access that I had to internships, and then also kind of going into that initial job interview and meeting this person who then very quickly became a friend and an advocate. I really reflected on the fact that, again, a lot of people don't have those opportunities. And I saw kind of that participation with the International Association of Black Actuaries as a way to give back. And it's interesting because for me, you think about the reward of giving back, but it's kind of been flipped, because for me, the gift has been working with and seeing some of the students that are coming through the programs with IABA, their drive, their passion, their determination, their commitment to becoming an actuary. And the things that they go through to get there, especially people who don't have that access earlier on in their educational life. So on the other hand, I often find the idea of the actuarial profession as the ultimate meritocracy a little bit challenging. When I think about different candidates as they come to the exam room, every candidate coming to the exam room on exam day, don't come as equals because of different levels of access. And even I think about the candidates and the potential candidates who don't even make it to the exam room because of awareness. And even more specifically, I think about the actuarial geniuses that I'm sure exist in many companies. I know several of them at my company who just weren't good exam takers. I think education is a critical and foundational element of what the Society of Actuaries does. But being a great actuary isn't only about how many exams you're able to pass before you graduate college. And that is a huge barrier to access of many potentially great actuaries having that access and some of those barriers.
Very good insight. Do you have other insights you can share about navigating the workplace for up and coming people?
Yeah. We've talked a lot about kind of conversations and, today about bringing your authentic self to work. And I think that's great in theory, but often challenging in practice, where people may not necessarily feel the space to be authentic and, when they're coming into workplace, especially with some of the concepts of, fitting in to the company culture versus, how we think about companies rather on the flip side, embracing cultural ads. I was reading an article on LinkedIn just a couple days ago, um, and it was very popular based on the number of shares and likes. And as I was reading through it, there was a part of it that talked about demonstrating that you can fit into a company when you're interviewing. And that concept is really at odds with the concept of bringing your authentic self to work. Personally, I feel that I have been able to be unapologetically myself in the workplace, and I really credit that to support advocacy and mentoring that I've received. So I guess I would shift it, to advice that maybe I would give to people in a position to support, mentor, and advocate. And, as they're helping other people enter the workplace, navigate the workplace, and how we can make that easier for potential actuaries and actuarial students. And also making the profession more accessible, more inclusive, by reaching back and bringing that next generation of actuaries along through building awareness, through facilitating opportunities for access, especially for people that you may not necessarily consider your typical actuarial candidate.
Well, that's a good challenge for all of us to grab onto. And I think changing our preconceived ideas of what it means to be a leader as well.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So if you could go back and give some advice to your younger self, what would you say?
I guess when I think back to my younger self, with my experiences as an actuary, my experiences as a woman, as a mother, um, I guess the thing that I would say to myself is, you're a lot stronger than you think.
Thank you, Jamala, for your time and sharing your thoughts and your experiences with us. And we appreciate your volunteering.
And thank you for your volunteerism as well.